Hey, welcome back to Power of the Programmer. This is section 4.8, and in this section we're going to be covering saving files. In the last couple sections we covered CSVs as well as reading data, analyzing and cleaning data, as well as using matplotlib to visualize our data. And lastly, we covered the pros and cons of using Python compared to a spreadsheet editor. So in this section, we're going to wrap this section up by talking about saving your data. Like I said in the previous section, like we talked about, data in Python is very ephemeral. By ephemeral, I mean that once the program is closed and gone, then the data disappears unless it's saved somewhere on your disk as a text file or a CSV or something. So in this section, we're going to be covering saving your data. And if you're following along, you can go ahead and open section 4 in the learning examples, and there is a file called saving.py. When you have that open, we have it open here on Sublime Text. We're gonna go ahead and see that this is basically what was in the sales.py section that we were working on last time with the analysis. So now that we have our data, we are going to go ahead and save this to a text file. So we have the average seconds between sales as well as the sales per channel. So what we're going to do in this section is we're going to be saving this data as a CSV. We're going to be saving the sales per state per channel as a CSV, as well as the seconds as a row in the CSV. So now that we have our program open, let's go ahead and start. So saving files is very similar to reading files. We're going to use the with open command. The open command, remember, opens a file, very similar to how we read the CSV up top over here with open sales data 2. So in this section, we're going to be using with open output.csv and use the W instead of the R. Remember, the R stands for read, the W stands for write. So it's basically the shortened version of write. So it's just a W with the single single quotations. And then we're going to be using the as out command to say that this file is called out. So writing files is very straightforward. When you call out.write, you can just put whatever string you want to write out in as a function, as the argument or the variable that you pass into the function. Remember, variable is is labeled data. So you can go ahead and we can try this and say out and then write let's get this bread. So now that we have this written, what should happen when we run this program is that a new file should pop up on the computer in the section 4 directory, and then it should say let's get this bread. So let's check it out here. You can see the output.csv is created. So let's get this bread is equal to what we've written out, so therefore this program is working. So great. Now that we know that this program is working, we can go ahead and start writing out the sales data per state per channel. Remember, this is what the sales data looks like. So let's pretty print this. pp equals pp dot pretty printer indent equals 4. So this basically will make it a little bit easier to read. Just call it pp2 pp print, and then we can go ahead and pretty print it. So you remember it's a dictionary with the key as a state and the value as an array of the as a dictionary of the sales channels with how many sales we have per channel: Amazon, eBay, and Etsy. So this is something that is very straightforward to read out. So how we can read it out would be what would make most sense in a CSV. Off the top of my head, this is the best way in my opinion. Of course, the output is always going to be dependent on the organization, your own organizational structure. So however you see fit to output, there really is no wrong answer. But let's go ahead and make the, our goal would be, let's go ahead and make the rows the sales per channel. And then the column A, the state. So then we can have our information organized very cleanly here. So the final output should be something like this: Amazon 2, eBay 1, Etsy 1, eBay 4, and then for Arizona it would be 4, 1, 3, so on and so forth. I always set the first row to be a black background and a white text. I just feel like that's easier to read. Sometimes I also make the row a different color as well. This is just for design sake, just to make it easier on the eyes. So you have to perform less thinking to get the answer that you're looking for. It just makes it, it's just a small investment in design that pays off in the long run. So now we have our goal. We want to output the data like that, like state, Amazon, Etsy, eBay. So this is the order we're going to go for. So something to remember about with OpenWrite, every time you run this program, it is always going to overwrite the CSV file, even if it's something that you saved from before. This is always going to overwrite it with a blank file. So be careful before you run this. Make sure that the output is that the output doesn't have valuable data. To demonstrate, I'm just going to go ahead and change this real quick to show you. Let's get this spread xxxxxxd. Okay, so this file is different from the text we're printing out. Once we run this again, you're going to see that it's going to replace it with just let's get the spread. So you can see here that this program is always going to overwrite it. You can change this by doing a W plus to append to it, but it looks like it's W plus, I think it's A, and then yeah, it's there's something in the reference, but basically the easiest way to remember it is just that the W is always going to overwrite it. So now that we know that the W is always going to override it, let's go ahead and double check. It looks like our output doesn't have any valuable data, so we can go ahead and output this file. So basically using just the out.write command, we can go ahead and print out the CSV one by one. So first of all, we need to always write what our headers are. So the first header is the state, second header is the Amazon sales, the Etsy sales, and then the eBay sales. So let's run this one time just to show that this is output correctly. Great. So we need to end this with a new line so we can start writing our actual sales data. So we're gonna, since it's a array, a dictionary of states, we can go ahead and use a for in loop with the K being the state, and then the V, the value, the key being the state, and the value being the dictionary of sales. So we can do a for KV in states dot iter items. Remember, iter items basically is a nice way of saying the key and the value. It'll do it all for you, so you don't have to worry. So let's just change this to key and value to make it a little bit easier for us. So now the first line is always going to be a state. So let's go ahead and write the key followed by a comma. Because remember, in comma separated lists, CSVs, the comma separates the rows or the cells. So now we're going to want to iterate through this dictionary, but since we always know it's Amazon, eBay, and Etsy, we don't need to do that. We can just write a value for Amazon followed by a comma, write the value of eBay followed by a comma, and then lastly the value of Etsy followed by a comma. So remember, call order is very important because it's going to write all of these in a row. So if we had eBay second and Etsy third, this is what would have happened. And remember, the new line separates the rows, so we need a new line at the very end of this. So we can go ahead and run it. And then this is a string. Remember, they're different currencies, so we have to convert them. Let's just convert all of these to string. And you can do this by running the str function. So let's run the str function. And then we can see that the Etsy sales is, the Etsy sale column is actually going to be the eBay sales column. So we can find CA over here, CA, which is 14. It's saying Etsy sales with 14, but in the actual dictionary that we did our analysis for, it says Etsy sales are 38. So this data is wrong because the call order is off. We wrote the eBay sales before the Etsy sales. So we need to move this around, change Etsy to a comma, and then eBay to a new line afterwards. So now we can open it up and see that Etsy sales matches up. Amazon sales for California matches up. And then the eBay sales is 14, so that matches up. So it looks like our dictionary printed out successfully. We can double check by picking two more random numbers to check random states. So New York over here. New York has 2 Amazon sales and 12 Etsy sales, and then 4 eBay sales. So New York in the finished processing column has 2 Amazon sales, 4 eBay sales, and 12 Etsy sales. So let's triple check with one more. For Maryland, we can check that it has 1 Amazon sale, followed by 4 Etsy sales, and 3 eBay sales. So in the process dictionary, we can see that the Amazon sales is 1, the eBay sales is 3, and the Etsy is 4. So we can see that that matches up and our data is output successfully. So now that we have this, we can go ahead and close out of our program. Just to have all our data out, let's write out the seconds at the very end to have a new line. So just call it delta between sales, and then let's just print it out. Remember, different currencies, so seconds 0. Since we're returning this as a tuple, we can actually just remove the last one, because let's just make a decision and say it was the divided by the number of sales in total. So just seconds, and then we can go ahead and add a new line just to close out this document, and then 2 new lines before that just to clean the data. So remember, different currencies, so we just need to convert it same way as you convert currencies when you go to a different country that doesn't take US dollars, or wherever you're based doesn't take your local currency. So I'm based in the US, so it's US dollars. So you can see over here the delta between sales is printed at the very end. So our program is running successfully. So now that we have this data, we can actually just close this out and import this into whatever spreadsheet application we want. This is basically as good as any spreadsheet application. So you can go ahead and import it into Google Drive, You can open it up in Numbers. So this is how to export your data and share it and use it for any general spreadsheet application after you're done. So once you're finished with Python, then it's basically like this data has never really touched Python. It's good to go for whatever application you want to use it for. But you get the power of Python with the ease of using a spreadsheet after that. So sometimes what I like to do is I like to get the raw data, the big data, where it's thousands of thousands, 10,000s, 100,000, millions of lines of data. And then I go through Python first and then look at it in a spreadsheet just to have a nice visual guide where I can make final adjustments. So that's one application where exporting data is really valuable because you get the power of using your full computer to process it. And then afterwards, you get the graphical support of a dedicated spreadsheet application to make final analysis steps and make your insights there. Of course, you could just make it inside Python, but personally, I'm a visual learner, so I like using a combination of both. But Python is invaluable for the raw data processing because without it, there is no way I can handle a million lines of data with just Excel. So this concludes the CSV section. In the next section, we're going to be covering debugging. I'll be showing you 3 different debugging techniques for your code, how to fix your code on a budget without having to resort to a developer, and this concludes the CSV section. So whenever you're ready, I'll see you in the next section, and let's get started on debugging.